So Dr. Jacoby?
Happily, thank you. Thank you all for coming this evening. If you were here previously, you're going to hear some of the same comments, and please excuse us because both Paul and I cannot see the slides, so we're going to try to coordinate our efforts as best we can. It's my privilege tonight to present, along with our capable CFO, Paula Altieri, the Hartford Public Schools 2014-15 proposed budget. In the few days that I've been on board here as a special assistant to the board, I've reviewed the budget document carefully. I met with a number of people. I've asked far too many questions of too many people. And I brought my knowledge of Hartford Public Schools, having been here some 6 years ago, and my educational leadership experience over a number of years to the budget as I interpreted it. So what I'm going to be sharing with you now is my interpretation of the budget. I would characterize the Hartford 2014-15 proposed budget as one that is fiscally responsible, budgeting for a plan, because you have a very thorough strategic plan, and a budget that has a central purpose, focusing resources on educating, inspiring, and supporting our Hartford students and their families. Paul and I will share presenting various sections of the agenda, and you can see, I believe we're on the second slide, the presentation agenda. You can see the various, is that where we are? Yes, we are. Okay, good. Our strategic focus is around the three goals that I know ring familiar to all of you. The first is the third grade promise that all youngsters who enter the Hartford Public Schools at pre-K or kindergarten will read at or above grade level by the end of the third grade. And our second focus is around middle years redesign, and you're going to hear a little bit later some of our successes because our students are beginning to grow and achieve at the middle years level. And finally, our third focus is on college readiness, that all students earning a Hartford Public School diploma will demonstrate college readiness. And Paula is going to begin by focusing on a historical overview of the budget. Paula?
Thank you, Dr. Jacoby, and good evening, everyone. So over the last 7 years, the Board of Education budget has risen by approximately 11%, or approximately $50 per student. This represents an annualized and average increase of approximately 1.6% per year. Over the same period, our enrollment has increased by just under, 11%, or 2,651 students. During the same time, and heightened by the need for reform, we have taken great strides in prioritizing funding direct to schools, students, and classrooms. To that end, as depicted by the chart on the bottom of this slide, we have devoted a greater share of our resources to schools, students, and classrooms, moving from 66% in 2008-09 to 81% in the recommended 2014-15 budget. Of the total per pupil expenditure, we spend $12,544, or 81%, at schools, and the remaining $2,889, or 19%, for central services. Throughout our reform, we've had many meaningful discussions surrounding equity and funding for our neighborhood schools versus our host magnet schools. As we reviewed the historical data, we wanted to provide some insight into that question. To that end, as depicted by the slide on the right here, the graph on the right, the average per pupil spending at our neighborhood schools is $13,078 per pupil, as compared to an average per pupil spending of $12,268 at our host magnet schools. The average neighborhood per pupil spending exceeds host magnet schools by $810, or approximately 7% per pupil. The next two slides shows the increase in per pupil spending for selected elementary schools and secondary schools and compares them to the depicted host magnet schools. While I'm not going to review all of these, I wanted just to highlight a couple here. If we look at Clark School, you'll notice that the total per pupil spending was $9,258 in 2008-09. And has increased to $15,629 per pupil in this 2014-15 recommended budget. This represents an increase of 6,371 per pupil, or 69%. We also see similar increases at Milner and Sand. At Milner, $10,169 and $9,295 in Sand at 0809. And compared to 1415, 15,591, and 14,103 per pupil. This represents a increase of 52 and 53% respectively in per student funding over a 7-year period. We see similar comparisons on the next slide for our secondary programs as well. The average per pupil spending for the magnet schools depicted rose by 18% as compared to the depicted neighborhood schools, whose per pupil spending rose on average by 31%. At the elementary level, the depicted magnet schools rose by 26.5% as compared to the depicted neighborhood schools, whose per pupil spending rose by 41.3%. So the data tells us that funding to neighborhood schools is increasing at a faster pace than funding to the magnet schools. And on average, we find that it exceeds the funding of the magnet schools at both the elementary and secondary level. So continuing on with our historical overview, the next slide here examines how this 7-year increase has been funded. The first of our funding streams represented here is what's known as State of Education pass-through grant funding. And these are grants such as the Education Cost Sharing and the Transportation Subsidy Grant. The state of Connecticut pass-through revenue has decreased by approximately $1.2 million, or about $800 per pupil. And this mainly is driven by a decrease in the state transportation subsidies provided by the state of Connecticut. The next set of revenues is funding we receive from the local tax contributions from the City of Hartford. The City of Hartford's appropriation increases by approximately $700,000, which, as you'll see when we look at the 14-15 recommended budget, is mainly driven by a $1 million reinstatement from CIP funding provided in 13-14 back to the general fund in 14-15. However, when we were looking at this, if we look on a per pupil basis, is the per pupil funding from the City of Hartford has not kept pace with our enrollment growth. So if you look on a per pupil basis, funding from the City of Hartford has actually decreased by approximately $340 per pupil over a 7-year period. And last, given the fiscal challenges over the last several years and our need to preserve the reforms that have led to positive growth for our students, we do remain active in our pursuit of grants and opportunities that align with our strategic focus. And to that end, you'll notice that grants and donation funding has increased by approximately $42.7 million, or approximately $1,200 per pupil over the last 7-year period. So the next slide, we want to take a look at what our major drivers are to put this all in some context. Again, with our focus on a per pupil basis, approximately 70% of our total district budget is salaries and benefit costs. So it should be of no surprise that the largest budget driver here is salaries on a historical basis. As you can see, salaries have increased by $307 per pupil over the last 7 years and represent 71% of our total budget increase. This figure represents both increase in staffing levels to meet enrollment growth and contractual salary increases. The second of our largest driver is student tuition costs. And over the last 7 years, student tuition costs have risen by $779 per pupil, or $24.8 million, and account for nearly 59% of the total budget increase. We have a small increase in the need for technology. As the need for technology and education increases, so does our cost for computers and equipment. And to that end, we are spending approximately $10 more per pupil, or $500,000 more over the last 7 years on computers and technologies. And the remaining accounts on this slide actually represent decreases. And over the years, we have instituted many reductions to mitigate our rising costs and preserve resources direct to our schools and our students. So the next account, 8 accounts here, represent our cost mitigation strategies and cost savings achieved from those strategies. Dr. Jacoby?
All righty. While advancing the reform effort these last 7 years and developing an all-choice system, we've achieved a number of things. Our graduation rate has doubled. We've opened several new schools. And in 2013, 14 schools are in the goal range of achievement. We were just chatting about that a little bit before our board meeting, versus 4 schools being in the 4 schools were at the goal level in the beginning of the reform. And what I mentioned earlier, 6th grade performance showed significant gains in 4 areas that were tested. Again, back to one of the primary goals of the budget. And partnerships were launched with between the Hartford Public Schools and the Hartford Public Library to do 2 things: to enhance student learning and community access. In the appendix of the document, if you have a copy of it, we included very specific accomplishments, some 40 accomplishments that occurred during this period of time, and you might find it interesting to read those during your leisure. As we look at the next slide, we're supporting our student growth in this budget, and we're doing it. The only way we can really be successful is really to have a dedicated team of leaders and teachers and parents, community, and a board of education who are working toward one goal with the following priorities. This upcoming year, we're going to be strengthening our Common Core standards. I think you've heard this across the state, across the United States actually. We're accelerating our college and career readiness approaches. We have a number of new advisory programs. We have students participating in capstone projects, meaning the end-of-year graduation projects, and we're expanding both internships and externships for our students. Another goal is, and we're beginning to see a very positive effect here, another priority, is to support effectively our language acquisition programming to ensure that our English language learners meet or exceed grade level performance, very important. And priority 4, we're supporting our 5 lowest performing schools. And finally, we're really increasing our effort to engage the community and create true partners in education. I just looked today at a plan to have a weekend retreat for 35, 40 parents who are parent leaders in Hartford, and we have half of those folks have signed up. So it's a 2-day away where a team of people will be working with parents to help them learn to advocate and to engage and to help educators recognizing the importance of that partnership. Paula?
Okay, great. So the next slide speaks to our objectives for the 2014 budget development. Our 3 guiding principles for the creation of this budget are what we term budgeting for success. The first is equity and transparency, in which resources are allocated consistent with our performance empowerment theory of change, primarily using our student-based budgeting methodology known as weighted student funding. Next, parent empowerment is budget allocation of schools are reviewed and approved by their respective school governance councils. And finally, as Dr. Jacoby mentioned earlier, develop a fiscally responsible and educationally responsive budget. So the 2014-15 proposed budget, we have 2 funds that make up the total district budget, and they are the general fund and the special funds. The 2014 recommended general fund budget is $284 million, and it reflects an increase of $1 million or 0.4% over our current 2013-14 general fund budget. The $1 million increase is direct appropriation, is offset by a corresponding $1 million decrease in indirect contributions from the City of Hartford pursuant to a 1-year stipulated agreement in which the City of Hartford provided us CIP funds for this current fiscal year. The 2014-15 recommended special funds budget is $139 million and reflects a decrease of $6 million or 4.2% over the 2013-14 special funds budget of $145 million. This brings the total 2014-15 recommended budget to $423 million, representing an overall decrease of $5 million or 1.2% over the existing budget of $428 million. The next slide is a graphical representation of the all funds budget and supporting revenue. As indicated by the graph on the left, you'll notice that general budget makes up 67.1% of our total operating budget of $423 million, and special funds accounts for the remaining 32.9%. As indicated by the graph to the right, revenue to support the budget is derived by state pass-through grants. These are namely the ECS and transportation subsidy, which represent 44.9% of our total revenues, or $190 million. Grant and private funding, we have state grants that make up 23.7% of our total revenue, or $100.4 million. Federal grants, 7.3%, or $31.1 million. Private and foundation funding at 1.8%, or $7.6 million. And the balance generously provided by the local tax effort here in Hartford at 22.2%, or $94 million. The next slide provides the specific details supporting the revenue assumptions. As you can see, we estimate ECS revenue to remain flat at $188 million. The transportation subsidy, again, is flat, projected in 2014-15. A decrease of $6 million, or $139 million in special funds, or 4.2% decrease over the current budget. And a $1 million increase in the local tax contributions, moving from $92.9 million to $93.9 million in 14-15. This budget supports projected enrollment of 27,410 students and represents a 706 student increase, or 2.6%. Increase over our current enrollment of 26,704 students. If you turn to the next slide, you're going to see the breakdown of that 706 students. There is a projected increase of 534 students in our city schools, a projected decrease of 4 students in out-of-district special education facilities, and a projected increase of 176 students attending choice and interdistrict schools. Of the 534 in city, there is a projected increase of 612 students that will attend our host magnet programs. 562 of those will be suburban students, and we're estimating 50 students will be Hartford resident students. There's a projected increase of 142 students at Achievement First, and a corresponding decrease in our neighborhood school enrollment of 220 students. The next slide represents the budget drivers by major category. We have 11 major categories of drivers here. 5 of these major categories are increasing while 6 are decreasing. And the first is salary accounts. Salary accounts are increasing here by approximately $3.4 million, or 1.5% on salary accounts. The second driver is student tuition. Student tuition increases by a little over $3.1 million, or 5.7%. Rental of facilities accounts are increasing by $962,000, or 24.3%. Utilities are increasing by $352,000, or 4.1%. Supplies and materials increased by a little over $110,000, or approximately $4.02 per student. We have equipment decreasing by approximately $3.4 million, or 57.4%. Building improvements is decreasing by $2.9 million, or 96.2%. Fringe and insurance is decreasing by $2.6 million or 4%. Our professional contracts and services are also decreasing by $1.2 million or 8%. And student transportation is decreasing by $1.4 million or 5.6%, and all other accounts decreased by approximately $1.4 million or 13.6%. And you can find the detail to support this in the appendix section of the presentation here, and also on beginning on page 10 of the executive summary section of the budget book. So we had increasing fixed costs associated with this budget, and as you heard, flat or declining revenues. And that resulted in our need to find strategies to mitigate the rising costs and balance the budget. We deployed several cost containment and mitigation strategies, and those strategies are listed on the next two slides. So there are 5 areas that we targeted here. The first was to deploy a zero-based budgeting approach, which yielded cost savings and mitigations of $2.6 million. We targeted special education, which yielded almost $8 million, and you can see the majority of that was through an RFP of our special education transportation contract. We also took a look at part-time and overtime and substitute cost, and were able to mitigate $5.4 million, which helped mitigate the rising costs in the salary accounts. And our last area was fringe and insurance, which decreased by 2.6 overall. However, we were able to mitigate $3.9 million in cost with the strategies listed, which were the retiree subsidy and contract and negotiation changes. So you're going to see that in this budget, we were able to mitigate just under $15 million to help preserve some of the reform and make sure that the resources stay where they're meant to stay with the schools, students, and classrooms. So just let's visit our objectives once more, and have we met our objectives? So when we talk about equity and transparency, well, we know that 81.3% of our available funds are in schools and in students and classrooms. So we've met our objective there and exceeded our goal of 75%. Central services have been reduced to 18.7% of available funds. We have allocated our resources in alignment with our managed performance empowerment theory of action. And we've prepared detailed presentation and budget books, which you can find on our website as well. Parent empowerment, I want to say a special thanks for all of the parents and community members and administrators that participated on our school governance councils. You continue to challenge us, and that is a wonderful thing, and we appreciate your participation on those committees. 42% of the school governance council have approved the budget, 37 of them by consensus, 4 by 2/3 majority of the votes, and 1 had voted yes to approve it, but unfortunately did not list the status. 5 of our school governance councils did reject the overall budget. We have met so far with each of the principals, and we're asking to send teams out. We'd love to hear from those school governance councils to where you feel there are unmet priorities, and work with you on seeing what we can do to address some of that. And then we had 1 school governance council that did not submit a form. That was Jamoki Milner.
Thank you.
And fiscally responsible and educationally responsive. Well, we knew we had rising costs, less our cost mitigation efforts, plus increased efforts in securing and utilizing grant funds has resulted in a fiscally responsible, educationally responsive, balanced budget, which for a 7th consecutive year provides for flat funding for the local tax contribution from the City of Hartford. And Dr. Jacoby, closing remarks?
Thank you. Really, to just kind of conclude, we thought it'd be interesting to share with you a favorite quote. In the face of dramatic change, education is being asked to remake itself to fit a society in motion. And it's within that context that the 2014-15 school budget has been developed. Growth and change are inevitable, and what has remained a constant is our central purpose: educating, inspiring, and supporting our Hartford students and our families. We'll be very happy to entertain your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we take public comment and questions, I just want to apologize to everyone for being late. I was at a meeting with the commissioner to discuss the Clark School. No resolution yet, but we had a very good conversation around some strategies that we might be able to employ, which I'm sure you'll hear more about in the coming days. But I want to assure you that I was detained on the public's business and was not just lollygagging about, but I do want to apologize for being late. And I want to thank Dr. Colon Rivas for holding the chair while I was gone. Questions, and then we'll take public comment. Questions from the members of the board? Hearing none. Public comment. William Wilkes of Hartford.
Is this the mic? They have to come up on the stage? Not good.
It's Wicks. Wicks, I'm sorry, I couldn't make out your writing. And just a reminder to everyone, it's 3 minutes of public comment, and it's confined to the budget. And at 2 minutes, Ms. Dorfman will give you a signal, and at 3 minutes, she'll get another signal, and at 3 minutes, I'd ask you to wrap up what you're saying and make way for the next speaker.
How y'all doing today?
Ms. Ricks?
Good, thanks. All right, listen, just Hartford kids can't wait. I'm here, like I was just listening to a lot of numbers being thrown out and things like that. And a number that really like stunned me was when I heard you say something about like 500 and plus kids from out of district will be coming to the magnet schools in Hartford, and only 50 from Hartford. And I think that's totally unacceptable. When Hartford kids are really like struggling, they're really struggling. But I'm going to get to the point that why I'm up here. All right, so hello. I am here on behalf of children from Hartford that are stuck in failing schools. The district and school performance reports from 2012 and 2013 shows that out of 50 schools in Hartford district, only 9 were doing okay. 7 were in the middle of failing and doing okay, and 34 were failing. To me, that is unacceptable, and it should be unacceptable to all of you. And it's a must that change for the better starts now. Every child deserves a quality education, not just those who can afford it or those who are lucky enough to be selected in the lottery. No matter if it's a charter school, public school, or magnet school, each child should receive a quality education, regardless of their zip code, financial status, or ethnicity. There is a serious problem going on in Hartford as far as education is concerned. And there is a lot of finger pointing and complaining, but nowhere near enough corrective actions being taken. We all have our own ideas about what is wrong, and personally, I'm exhausted about hearing what's wrong. If we put half as much time into creating effective solutions and forming partnerships for the sake of the children, because that's why we're all here, for our children. The only problem is the children are the ones receiving the short end of the stick. Each and every day they leave the house on their way to an institution of learning that is consistently failing them. This is an urgent matter, and I don't see the eagerness to correct this problem. As long as nearly 70% of schools in Hartford District are failing, not one Board of Ed meeting should be taking place where the majority of the time is not centered around turning around and improving these failing schools. Everything else could wait, but not our children. If it doesn't pertain to providing each child with a quality education, it could wait. There's really nothing else to talk about until each school is at or above average. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Rick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hyacinth Yanni.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Hyacinth.
I'm Hyacinth Yanni. A couple of things that I would like to mention that perhaps could help us budget-wise. I've been in the system for quite a while, and so I know what's working, what doesn't work. And I love the fact that our parents have choices now. But one of the things that comes with choice is responsibility. And I know for sure that we shouldn't all, have to bear the burden of transportation. When my kids were going to school, and I have to bring that up because I know it works. I live in one side of town, I send my kids to the other side of town. I was responsible to take them there because you know what? It was my choice. So we need to seriously look at how we're doing business because we cannot continue to afford the transportation. We have too many schools out there, okay? We need to look at our neighborhood school and making sure that they have the resource properly to address the need of the kids. Magnet School is great. However, everyone cannot go into Magnet School. So we need to get focused on fixing our neighborhood schools. It's really critical. Here it is that we have 3 academy at Hartford High. We have 3 principals and all the other assistants. And here's a school that really does not work, to be honest with you. A year, one whole year, we have a printer in a library that we still can't get fixed because no one is willing to come together and say, let's fix it. Our kids have to pay the library to make copies. So how can you tell me that a magnet school and a regular public school have the same quality? No. We need to put more focus back on our community and neighborhood school so our parents can stay within their go within their neighborhood school to get quality education. We keep running away from the issue, and the issue we have to fix to make it work for everyone, okay? We cannot afford to build any more schools. We can't. We don't have the money to maintain them. We don't have staff to maintain them. You have staff in a building that doesn't care some of the time. You have some staff who really does take pride in their building. We have at Hartford High, no one seems to take pride in doing anything there. So we need to fix that school. One principal, have assistants looking over the small learning community schools. Okay? Names and label makes no difference if you're not getting what you need to make it work. Okay? So let's look at our transportation issue, which is a big part of our, money going someplace. And I think that can work. People need to start taking responsibility if they want to send their kids somewhere far. Okay? So that's all I have to say for now. Okay? Because we can't afford in this community, our taxes keep going up and up, and it's the same old, same old. So let's get focus on our neighborhood school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon. Natasha Barfield.
I want to start off, I don't have any kids, but I'm a little disappointed with some of the schools where they're going. You guys were throwing a lot of numbers out to us, $4 a kid. We don't know if that's a day, if that's a week, if that's for the year. And I don't know if you guys are really seeing the money go to the school because the schools are still looking bad. They don't have computers. Some of them don't have smart boards. A lot of kids don't even know about dissecting frogs, plants, so that they could become surgeons one day if they want to. If that's too price costly, they have plants they can dissect. None of that kind of stuff is out there for the kids. Computer rooms. If you go to some of the higher schools, they have over 20, 25 computers. You come to ours, we have 4 to 5 computers. I'm not sure if y'all seeing, as I said, where the money's going because the schools, the environment is not even, it's not as beautiful as it should be as other schools. Another thing with the principals, you guys said that y'all speak with the principals. Sometimes the principals don't even stay at the school long enough to even watch the kids graduate. They come in and out. So what does that say about the school? Is there not enough money for the principals? Teachers don't get paid that much. So all the money that y'all saying is going into the school, where is it going? You just threw the numbers out, but it's not showing in the school itself. And before we talked about it, they have guidance counselors. I haven't seen anything like that to help the kids with guidance if they want to go on and move on with their education or what they want to be in the future. They are our future. I have no kids, so it's important for the ones that do want to learn that they get the proper things that they need so that they can help establish the rest of the world and help their families. Back with the budget, the money, I don't see, most parents have to buy paper for their kids, the books, papers. I don't know what you guys are spending for the kids. The paper that you're saying that you're doing $4 each child. The parents are liable, they have to buy pencils, markers, crayons. That's on the parent. So the school should be functioning in a better way with stable teachers that will be there for them. They come in and they go. It's just not fair. I don't even know how to even go about it, but it is, everybody deserves to have a good education, and if there's some that are willing to learn, I feel like it should be accessible for them to get it and have what they need to go along. Most of the things they get pamphlets, they're not even books. Are they not worth hardcover books? You guys are making diddles, sending diddles home. That's not even pushing their brain to learn more. You know, accounting, all that kind of stuff. They need everything, not just the math. You know, you guys aren't going into astronomy and psychological needs. There's a lot that they could be, and they just need a chance to get to that level to be with the rest of the people.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Levy Cardulis? Good evening.
Hello, Richard. I thought you knew me better than that. It's Levy, like leave me alone.
I will mispronounce your name till the day I die.
Yeah, we're gonna stop though. Okay, talking about the budget. Hyson brought up Hartford High School, and that's always been my example. You know, we're paying a ton of money in administration for, I mean, what we have 3 principals over there at Hartford High. Now let's go to every school and let's start breaking down how much money we're spending for administration, the executive secretaries, the office assistants. This is like repeating itself like at a tremendous amount all throughout the district. You know, one of the questions that I had, we have what, 6 assistant superintendents? And none of them could have been acting until July 1? We should not have been spending additional money to bring someone else in when we're in the middle of a crisis. We're talking about people losing their jobs. We're talking about kids not having the proper facilities, proper, like the woman had just said, smart boards, computers. But we could find money when we need it. But we have 6 assistant superintendents, and not one could have sat in the chair until July 1st. I really believe, you know, the way we're looking at the budget, it's real fishy in here. And we really need to start honing in on that, streamlining, because we're so top heavy. If it was a tree, the tree would be bent over to the ground. The top of the tree would be touching the ground. And we really need to start getting away from that and start putting the money where it really needs to be, and that's with the kids and inside the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Jones?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is my first time at a meeting like this, and I was alarmed by the fact that 70% of the budget is going towards salaries, and only $10 per kid is going towards equipment. In this information age, we are putting our kids behind the 8 ball. They need computers in the classroom, and not just computers in the classroom, smart boards. They need computers and smart boards that are working. I personally worked in a program where we donated computers to the school. They were never hooked up. So what's the sense of them being there if they're not hooked up? I think we need to think about incorporating some of these corporations into the school system. They are in our city, they have money to give. We need to tap into them, ask them to come in, hook up the computers, donate computers. If we reach out to them, they'll reach out to us because they want to stay in Hartford. But we're not utilizing our resources wisely. It's alarming to me that salaries are being paid at a rate of 70% of the budget, and our students don't have a computer or paper to write on. I have one daughter that's at the University of Hartford Magnet School, and I recently became guardians of 3 girls that are at MLK. MLK is a zoo. It's a zoo. The stories that these girls came home with every night, the first month of school, were alarming. The final thing for me, I went to the board and I talked to Marta Bentman. The final thing for me was when one of the kids came home and said, a student threw a eraser and hit the teacher in the head. When I went to talk to Marta, she said that could not have happened at my school. Yes, it did happen. I finally went and talked to Dr. Crawford, who I believe is an agent of change, but she could not do it alone. The teachers there were not responsive. When I talked to her and I told her about this incident with the eraser, she jumped up from her desk and she said, yes, it did happen. That's the first time I got acknowledgement that there was a problem in that school. When she said it did happen, comes to find out, she did not find out about it until 5 p.m. Do you want to know why? Because the teacher involved did not go to the principal, she did not send a student to the principal, she went to the union to cover herself. These are the type of things that are happening in our school system. The teachers a lot of times are there for the money, they're there for the benefits that they receive from working in an inner city school and not there for the students. She immediately told me she was going to call a meeting with the teachers because she realized that the culture at the school is out of order or was out of order. The teachers were more concerned about status quo and not taking action against the students because they were afraid. They were afraid of retribution. That is starting to change. I volunteered at the school. I was in the classroom for one day. There was one student that got sent to the principal's office 3 times. The teacher sent him to the principal's office. He came back 20 minutes later. She sent him back to the principal's office. He came back 20 minutes later. She sent him the 3rd time. They finally kept him down there. These are the type of things that are going on that are affecting the kids that want to learn. We need to put more money into sending kids back home. If you cannot deal with them at school, they have so many problems and issues that should not be dealt with at school. But you have to also hold the parents accountable. If your kids are out of order, they need to go home. We don't need to house them. And we also need to provide services so that they can get counseling. I recently had to move from one nice location to a more, I would say a bad location. That's where I am now. But it's opened my eyes to see that in a week's time or a month's time since I've been there, there's been 3 shootings down the street. That means that the kids that are in that location are being exposed to shootings on a regular basis. That's not something that I had to deal with when I was at my other address. So I understand that our children have problems. We need to put money in the budget to deal with those problems. They should not be reducing the budget because of the psychological problems that our children do have. It's hard to learn if you're in an environment where you're having to deal with gunshots and ducking them every now and then, even on the way to school or on the way back from school. I think we need to look at the salaries that we're paying and revisit that. We also need to revisit the technology to make sure our children have what they need to actively have a career that would be conducive to them being an upstanding citizen. Thank you for having me here today, and I hope you really consider what I've said.
Edith Estremera and Jarita Rosado.
Distinguidos miembros de la Junta del Público en general, muy buenas noches. Mi nombre es Edie Tremera, a nombre de la Academia de Estudios Latinos. Nos gustaría darle las gracias al proyecto de presupuesto para el fin del año fiscal 2014 al 2015. Tenemos los recursos necesarios en su lugar para hacer una gran diferencia y contribuyen al éxito de nuestros hijos. Puedo ver la diferencia en la escuela desde hace 2 años. Los estudiantes mejoraron en los exámenes de math, la asistencia ha mejorado y el comportamiento está cambiando. Puedo decir que vamos en el camino correcto. Una vez más, estamos muy agradecidos por el presupuesto de este año. Gracias.
I will translate in English. Distinguished board member and public in general, good evening. My name is Joyce Rosado. On behalf of the Burn Latino Students Academy, we would like to thank you to propose budget for this fiscal year 2014-2015, having necessary resources in place making a big difference and distribute to the success of our children. I can see the difference in the school for 2 years ago. Students improved in math tests instead. Attendance improved and behavior is changing. I can say we are going in the right track. Again, we are very thankful for this year's budget.
Thank you. Evelyn Richardson?
Hello, everyone. Wow, so many things that I could talk about. With all the wonderful things you've heard so far, here I am, huh? But certainly, I'm the mother of 7 children and 9 grandchildren, so I always throw that in there. I also have quite a few kids that's in my sphere of influence, so you guys make some really important decisions that impact my life, my family, and my community. One of the things that I have 2 children, one child that still goes to school in Hartford, and 2 of my children, because I have 4 adults, but the 3 that are still home, 2 of them go out to Granby. And when I look at those dynamics, when I initially left one child in Hartford, it wasn't because the school that was in Hartford was something that I wanted at that time. When I started with the choice program, it was because I had a parent-teacher conference, and the teacher at that time told me, Miss Richardson, she said, I'm gonna tell you this, but if you repeat it to anybody, I will deny that I said it to you. This school is failing your child. Your daughter is too gifted for the school, and you need to get her into a school that would be conducive to, you know, how smart she is. She said that basically all I can do in this classroom for her is I'm using her as a teacher's assistant because I can't teach her anything because I'm trying to teach the other children. So I'm looking at this teacher and I'm saying, my goodness, you're not equipped to teach my child anymore. So I took Simone at that time out of Sand School when she was in 4th grade and put her in the lottery, and we got selected to Granby. So then my next child went straight from Women's League out to Granby. My son Christopher, I kept him in Hartford because of the great promise that Global made that if your children finish out the program, that they would be guaranteed a college education. And as a parent, that was hard for me because I was saying, okay, here I am putting 2 kids out in Granby, but I'm leaving one child behind, and he might bear the brunt of me wanting success for the whole family because I left him in a school where that was going through challenges. Today, just today in my life, I got of someone who contacted me and said that their child needs help with reading, and they reached out to the Daughters of Eve. This is a 4th grader in Hartford. And then today, another family contacted me and said that all 4 of her children just got expelled from Sands Elementary School. And I'm like, how can this happen in our city? And then also, it's really hard for me because when I sent my kids out to Granby, we went through the racist comments. We went through the people getting used to, because at that time when Simone went, Granby had just opened the doors to the choice program. So she was one of the first batch of students to come into that culture. And my hope was always that Hartford would get our schools together so that I can bring my children back to their neighborhood. And when I look around in other towns, I see that there are still community neighborhood schools that are operating, that are successful, but in Hartford, they're diminishing. It's like you're saying that we can't do anything with these schools except tear them down and create something else with them. And that scares me, because it's saying that I'm never going to have an opportunity for my kids to be successful and come back to the community where I want them to be, where I want them to be leaders. I also work for CREC, so I deal with a lot of our children. And I tell you, some days I'm like, oh my goodness, in about 20 years, I'm going to pour through McDonald's and the whole bus is going to be at McDonald's. Is there any degrading job? No. But where are the people that's sitting here going to be reflected? I want to see our kids leading our city, not leading our cities. We're not equipping them. And it's my acts of you all that you make some real serious decisions. I don't care if you got to wipe the table clean, start fresh. And I know it took you about probably 30 years to even get to this place, but we're still failing our students.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Edgardo Riolera. Edgardo Riolera. Okay. Victoria Rivera and Natasha Davis.
Hi, I'm Vantasia Davis, and I go to Burns Latino Studies. Hi, my name is Victoria Rivera, and I also go to Burns Latino Studies Academy. First, we wanted to say a couple things that people thought about our school and what they said. Go. Go. Like the contact nicknames for us, like a little jail, a little prison. People thought negative about our school. Our behavior made our school look bad. We had lots of fights and unnecessary violence. And after all that, we just wanted to thank you for everything you did to support our school and the child at Burns. Our children. Same thing. Our school has changed. Our school has changed, and with you giving our things back, a bigger education and better. Within 2 years, Dr. Browsy and other teachers had changed our life around because they showed us that education is better than getting in trouble or being out in the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Rivera, Marisol Rivera, and Evelyn Alvarez.
Sorry. My name is Marissa Rivera. I'm in the 8th grade at Burns Latino Studies Academy. Ms. Vega, our school counselor, which you helped paid her position as being a student counselor. To me, she's a great counselor. She helped me with my personal feelings and how I was getting bullied. Till now, she still helps me. She makes sure that I'm able to go to 9th grade and get a promotion. Hi, my name is Christina Rivera. I'm in 8th grade at Burns Latino Studies Academy. Ms. Vega also helps students that have problems at home, like if their parents are arguing or a family death. She will help you ignore it and give you a chance to calm down and talk about it. She also helps you understand that it happens in life. She also helps with applications with/for high school. Thanks for your support.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Alvarez. I'm in 6th grade. In Read 180, there are 2 of the teachers paid from the district. It is important because most of the students in the school have a lower Lexile levels. In Read 180, we use the computers. We also work with the teachers, and we read books on our reading levels, thanks to our teachers. Miss Frosto, Miss Sands, and Miss Hackett.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you. Christine Dixon Smith.
I am a teacher. I am a community activist. They call me Sister Nandi. Born and raised in 1941 in Hartford. My children went to school in Cromwell. I have been in the Hartford public school system as a child. We had great opportunities at Arsenal School, which is now Sand, Barnett Brown, Hartford Public High. And today, as a community activist, but also an arts educator, using Common Core state standards to teach our children their culture, who are mostly African Americans, Latinos. We have a few Asian people and some others, but we need to be responsible as adults. Right now, I'm sitting with people that working at Central Connecticut State University to see if we can make some connections so our children can go from K to 12 to Central Connecticut State University and be successful. When I talk to some of the people there, department heads, children are going there in remedial classes. They're not being successful. We need to change the environment, the academics. What is the expectation? What is really the expectation? When these kids come in kindergarten to school, what do we really expect them to do? Running after school programs with the State Department of Education, we were able to make difference, a lot of difference with your special needs children. At the end of the day, in a year, they would say of some of the special needs children, "Oh, Johnny could do that?" And I said, yes. If you keep music, if you keep instruments, if you keep them in the school instead of taking them out, children learn through the arts. I say to you, change what you are putting in for arts education. Change how you see these children, each and every one of you. Would you put your children in some of the schools that we are functioning with our parents that don't have the choice? Would you take your daughter, your grandchild? I have 2 children that's going to magnet schools. They're doing okay. But what about the parents that missed the lottery, that are stuck in these schools? I'm saying to you, whatever it is that is in your heart,
work with the budget, bring arts back, bring music back, and children learn from that. Bring art, bring music, bring those individuals that can interact with the children that are in those schools. You have a program called Hartford Performs. I love it. We have about 6 or 7 programs where we're actually in the schools during the day, interacting with the teachers and the children. They love it. They learn Common Core state standards. You have a duty to change some of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Downs.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent. I speak to you this evening as a resident of the northeastern section of Hartford, and I speak on behalf of the neighborhood schools, not only from the northeast section, but especially from the northeast section, but from the neighborhood schools all over the city. And they're being shorted in the budget at least $1 million. That's at least. Most of these schools have 7th and 8th grade. They have no certified guidance counselor. They have no certified librarian. They have no certified health teacher, which is as short as that course may be, because I've taught it at Quirk and Fox middle schools. It's a very important course, especially for 7th grade. There's a need for 5 or 6 more certified special needs or special education teachers in each school or more. And this is without saying that they have no vocational technical introduction to vocational technical education or family consumer science, which is necessary for that age group. And the fault for this resides with the Board of Education and the central office that it chooses, and the superintendent. When students are recruited from neighborhoods and sent to magnet schools and sent to charter schools, the students that remain have needs and things that they need to learn that can't be met. And the number of students that have extra needs or special needs or need special education, the percentage of those students increases. It's bound to happen. It's just a matter of numbers. You take the best students out or some of the best students. There's still some good students in the neighborhood schools, and you're leaving a lot of special needs schools with not a lot of special needs certified teachers, and it's up to at least 30% or more. Could be 40% in some of the schools. And this occurs in Clark School, Sand School, Naylor School, Martin Luther King School, whatever school you're thinking of. We need whatever neighborhood school we can name, Rawson, and it's the money's taken from these schools. The money needs to be put back in these schools. And where we can get the money for these schools is take it from the charter schools first, and then take it from the magnet schools. It's needed in the neighborhood schools now, and we can't afford to tarry. We cannot afford to argue or fight or wait for the commissioner. We need to get the resources in schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. That concludes public comment. There being no other business on the agenda, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.